Yeah, I'm going to do put some brake pads on here. So first thing I got to do is take off the wheel. That's the fast way, right? Now, one thing I always do, this is the brake caliper, and you can see here's the, I'm making this for people that don't know how to do this, right? This is the rotor, here's the brake caliper, and you got a hose on it, right? So when you remove this caliper, you're going to hang it up out of the way. And there's only a couple bolts that hold the caliper on. There's one of them right here, that's 10 millimeter, and here's the other one. Here's the other one, 10 millimeter. Now, before I take this off, what I do is, you can see here's the piston in here on the caliper. What I do is I bring the piston in there. In other words, I put a screwdriver between the brake pad and the rotor, and basically make sure the caliper piston is already in. This way, when you go to put the new brakes on, they'll fit because they're going to be a lot thicker. In other words, this piston's got to go in. And I'm going to tell you the truth, though. I've never had a problem with this, but they tell you actually in a book not to do this with ABS brakes because you could force some dirty fluid back into the ABS. But I've never had a problem, and I think the reason I've never had a problem is because I'll bleed the brakes and put a lot of new fluid in there, and all the fluid is very clean. So you might want to use, when you press this back, you might want to loosen up this nipple before you do that, and let the fluid out, and then add some up at the master cylinder when you go to after you're all done. But I don't do it that way, and I've never had a problem doing it this way, so just want to point that out. Then there's a couple 10 millimeter bolts. Just take these out, and then the whole caliper comes out, and you hang it up on the side with some string, and you're all set. So the reason you hang it up on the side is because you don't want the tension on these on the hose here, this hose right here. You don't want to be pulling on that rubber hose. Okay, so you can see the calipers up out of the way. Now, if this still needs to be crushed in a little more, you could take a C-clamp and crush it in a little bit more to make sure you got plenty of room to install these. I'll show you how to do that. Now, I'm going to show you what kind of brakes I got because this car doesn't really have very good brakes, so I got some premium pads that are much better than the originals. Actually, it'd be better to actually get some aftermarket calipers with bigger disc and everything else, for crying out loud, because I think Chrysler was a little lacking in the brakes. So if you're going to use stock size pads, I recommend you get some extra good ones, better than stock. At least, even if they're the same size, better materials. Okay, so you got the side that's on the outside of the brakes, basically the outside, and this is the part that goes inside the caliper itself. That'll press inside there, inside the caliper. I'll show you what brand I got because, I thought this is a pretty good brand. Ceramic brakes. So, because I heard these brakes pretty much heat up pretty bad. So, anyway, what you got to do is you pry this off here. You can basically get this off this way by prying under here with the screwdriver. It should come out. I basically had it all loosened up, but you basically have to, you see these two clips? They basically go over those holes. And, this would be a good time to take the C-clamp and push this in all the way, just in case it's not in, just you don't have enough room to get this over the rotor. Okay, so you can see I had this one pad out, so I can I'm pressing on the old pad. There's a C-clamp, and I pressed in the caliper the rest of the way. Alright, so using the C-clamp, just like this. So, in other words, that piston is in there all the way. So when I'm going to take this off, and when I take that off, in other words, there's going to be plenty of room, since the caliper piston's compressed all the way, that I'll be able to slide it on the disc. Especially if you're using new discs, you'll need to do that. And you might find you can develop a leak when you do that sometimes. The cup that's in the piston, that's in the caliper, could have a little rust on it and go over the rubber seal and cause a leak. So, you might run into another problem when you're doing this. So just be aware of that. If that's going to be the case, that's going to be the case, and you'll have to change the caliper. The other thing is, I just want to mention this. I had to change the wheel hub on this, but I noticed the brakes weren't too good, so I want to change at least change the pads. You know, I realized it when I did the wheel hub, but when I took the wheel hub off, I remember this. Now it's loose, but this disc was on here damn good. So, you know, if you're changing out these discs or anything like that, you might have to take a block of wood and put it behind here and tap it and use some penetrating oil even inside of here, and then wipe off all the disc. Of course, get all the penetrating oil off the disc. And, you know, because I found out this damn thing was on here rock solid just from rust. So if you're doing the brakes and you're doing the rotors too, you might be thinking it's bolted on there or something like that. It's not. You know, I know better. I know a mechanic knows that it's not bolted on there, but I'm just putting it out here for people that don't know. You might think that this damn thing is actually bolted on here. Actually, I had to hammer it quite a bit, use a lot of penetrating oil just from the rust, because this thing was really locked on there good, you know. So anyway, just want to point that out too, because if you're not used to using, well, for people who don't know how to do brakes, you need to know that kind of stuff, because this thing could be on here a lot tighter than you think. So again, I just want to repeat that. You'd have to use some penetrating oil around here, around in here. Take a block of wood behind here and tap on a block of wood with a hammer until it comes loose. It actually took me a while to get this thing loose. It had so much rust. Then after you're done with that, you got to chemically clean. Make sure you use some, get all that grease off of there from the penetrating oil. Get it all off. Make sure this is nice and clean. And, you know, don't put it back with penetrating oil on it, because you'll screw up your brakes. But you'll be surprised. Sometimes these can be on here rusted, very much so. So just want to warn you about that. It could happen. Now you see the brake pad in here. It basically just comes out. It's just stuck in there. I don't know if I can pull it out in my one hand. It's easy, but it comes out very easily. There it is. See, it's just stuck in there with these clips. That's all. That's all. And you notice the new brakes, they have like a beveled edge on them. Notice that? Now make sure when you, well, you can only put them in one way, but make sure, you know, you can see the curve on the top. They go with the curve with the rotor. But anyway, they got a nice beveled edge on these brakes, so it's kind of like they're pre-broken in, you know what I mean? That's another good thing about them. But anyway, just got to push them back in there and clip on the other ones. So I just pushed that into, you know, the 3 prongs go inside the cup, inside the piston, and the caliper, and that one's installed. And on this side, you got to slip these 2 clips over those holes. And I use a screwdriver just to, you know, pull this, just turn the screwdriver like that to pull the clip out a little bit, and it slides right over. Now they're in place. Now the hardest part you'll find about the installation here is getting this little spring clip. This little spring clip here. Let me point to it. Right here. Get that underneath the metal. And then this slides in here. Make sure these notches are in here correctly. See how that is? And see how it is back here? See? And when you look at the brakes on the top, you should see that they were nice and lined up perfect. You know what I mean? Just to make sure you got it in there right. Then you got the 2 10mm bolts. Make sure you store them by hand. I put a little anti-seize on these bolts because this is an area that gets a lot of rust, you know, water and stuff like that, and if these gets rusted on here, you might have a problem getting them off. So I put some anti-seize on it, but basically that's it. Just got to put the wheel on and do the other side. That's it.